Jake used to be scared of the dark, and his parents would leave a light on for him at night, a light to keep ghosts away. But the day before his 10th birthday they told him, "Tonight's the last time." And the next day, when he came home from school, they sat him down in the kitchen and they shut the curtains, turned off the lights, so it was completely dark. Then he heard them open the door and close it again, and the room was silent. "What are you doing?" he said. "Where have you gone?" No reply, and he began to be scared. The door opened again, and something small tumbled through, a black shadow of a something that scuffled on the floor and bumped against his ankles. But it felt soft and real, no kind of a ghost, and summoning his courage, he put his hand down. "Hey!" he said, because the shadow of a something had nipped him with its sharp teeth, and then the light went on again, and there it was, a puppy, black as the night, with golden eyes and soft fur and the sharpest puppy teeth. "He's yours," his mother said, "and once he's trained he can sleep in your room at night." "What'll you call him?" his father said, and Jake knew that already. "He's called Jet." When Jake reached his street, he meant not to look at his own house. He had to walk past it, and he meant not to look. But it was too hard. He couldn't bear to see, and he couldn't bear not to. And when he got close, he turned and looked. There was a board up outside. "To let. 3 beds, unfurnished. Apply Carruthers at homeslocal.ing." They'd given him a trunk before they took him away. Plenty of space for a small boy's belongings, they'd told him. The rest will be charitied. The trunk was made of black plastic, and they'd made him fill it with his clothes and his school books, duvet, towels. But when they weren't looking, he'd put a photo of his mum and dad in there too, and an old CD his mother had in a drawer, and her green cardigan. And he'd put in his father's knife with the red handle and 15 different blades, and his father's cap and his fisherman's sweater. Now he only had the photo and the cardigan and the knife zipped deep in his rucksack. Everything else was left behind in the trunk at the foot of his bed in the home academy. The gate was still broken, and no one had put the missing tiles back on the roof. His dad had been going to do that for months. The windows were dark, and Jake didn't look in. Down the side of the house he went, walking fast, round past the dustbin to the garden. Jet's kingdom. The grass was long, and the flower beds overgrown. His mother would have hated that. Jake sniffed. Foxes. Never had foxes when Jet was here, he said to himself. He allowed himself one long look down the garden. "Bye," he said then, and he turned to go. But there was a noise, a small whine. He stopped. He knew that sound. "Jet," he said, turning back. "Jet." Another small whine, and this time he was sure it came from the shed. Jake ran over. It was padlocked and there was no window. Kneeling down, he put his fingers under the door, and there was his dog, nuzzling at his hands, whining. "But they said they'd look after you," Jake said. "They promised." He tugged at the door, but the padlock was firm. He could hear the clink that Jet's collar made, the name tag chinking against the buckle. He took out his dad's penknife, flipped open the biggest blade, and dug it into the wood around the hasp, but it wouldn't give. Then he picked at the lock with the toothpick blade, but still the lock stayed firm, and all he could do was lean his head against the rough wood and promise to be back, to get him out of there. "You and me always," he said, and Jet made small, sad barks in response. Jake tried to keep his voice calm, but finally it was too hard, and there in the garden, hidden in the long grass, he wept.